Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the second season of the British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy. Welcome along for 4 weeks of hopefully really exciting racing. We've got some really talented grid of drivers set to do battle for your entertainment over the next 4 Monday evenings. And we're hoping that certainly if season 1 was anything to go by, we're in for plenty of entertaining action over those 4 weeks. My name is Andy McEwen, here to talk you through all of the action tonight, coming to you from the Donington Park National Circuit. This short, high-speed, flowing circuit is a real fan favourite here in the UK. It always produces good racing, and I'm sure that tonight will be no different. 2 races coming your way, along with a 10-minute qualifying session that's going to be starting within the next 10 minutes or so. It's non-stop action for you here this evening, and we're really, really grateful to have you on board. Many of you may well have joined us a few months ago, back in the first lockdown period here in the UK, for season 1 of the British F4 iRacing Trophy, which was won eventually by Chris Lulham after a really intense championship decider at Brands Hatch. Well, this time around, we've got some familiar faces, a few new names as well for you to learn, and some top-class sim racers as well who are coming to try their hand against some of the real-world experts, and it's going to be fascinating to see how they get on. As I said, 4 weeks of action, 2 races each night, so that's an 8-race calendar, which means that actually the drivers have to get on with this. They don't have that many opportunities to score big points, and these first 2 races tonight could prove to be really, really significant. From here, we will go on to visit a number of the classic tracks over here in the UK, tracks that the real world British Formula 4 Championship will visit over the course of the 2021 season, and therefore interesting practice for some of those that will be taking to the track in the real world later on in the year. As you can see, cars are out on track at the moment, just completing their free practice session, some rather more successfully than others, but they've been out there pounding around this place for quite a long time. Looking at the timing screen, a number of drivers have completed sort of 60, 70, even 80 plus laps, but none of this counts towards anything. The qualifying session will begin in about 7 minutes time. That will be a 10-minute qualifying session, which sets the grid for the first race. The second race features a full reversed grid, so you take your result from race 1, flip it completely upside down, and that gives you the grid for race 2, and that is going to be thrill-a-minute stuff, I'm sure. Well, I'm glad to say that I'm not alone here in the virtual commentary booth, because I have something of a Formula 4 expert, at least he should be anyway, alongside me to talk you through all of the action. I'm delighted to welcome on board Damien Meaden. And Damien, we heard from you on and off during season 1, but you've got a full-time gig here in the comms box, and I'm sure you're just as excited about this as I am.
Evening, Andy. Evening, everyone. Another lockdown, another iRacing Trophy. We really must stop meeting like this, mustn't we? No, really glad to get a little upgrade from the phone-in guest to the co-commentator. And as you say, we've got a fantastic season up ahead of us. 8 races across 4 meetings. Some of the best tracks, some of the best drivers that the UK and overseas has to offer. It's all set up to be another fantastic season of iRacing with a few little differences.
Yeah, one of those being, as I touched upon earlier on, this sort of 2-class system that we have going on this time. So we've got a class for the real-world drivers, which we'll refer to as the Pro class, and that's for drivers with some sort of Formula 4 affiliation generally, or real-world single-seater experience. And within that class, you've got some drivers that you will be familiar with from Season 1, and some drivers who maybe you might not know just yet, but they have very exciting futures in single-seater racing. Many of them will be appearing on the British Formula 4 grid this year, but they're sharing the track this time around, aren't they, Damien, with these sim racers running in the Pro Sim class. And I, for one, am fascinated to see how these 2 classes stack up against each other. There'll be fierce competition within each class, but there'll be quite a lot of mixing, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. The competition between the 2 classes is going to be absolutely amazing to watch. I think the viewers at home can't see the timing screens that we can at the moment, but the times between the 2 incredibly close. And I think if the on-track action when the lights go out is anything like this, then we're going to be in for quite some evening. But the first iRacing Trophy really was British F4's first foray into esports, if you like. It was a bit of an adventure of sorts for us, and the response from the sim racing community was really overwhelming, actually. So it only seemed right when we decided to bring it back for a second series that we found a way to try and incorporate as much of it as we could. And this is the result, and hopefully it lives up to the billing we're giving it.
Yeah, there'll be some fierce competition, I think, because the the real world drivers, obviously, they want to prove that they're top dog, but then you've also got these sim racers who probably know the iRacing platform a little bit better, maybe, than some of the real world drivers, and they're going to kind of feel like this is their territory, and they want to show that they, on iRacing at least, are more than capable of competing with the very best that the UK single-seater racing world has to offer. So there's going to be sort of some fierce rivalry, I think, between those two classes. It's going to be really interesting to see how that how that develops over the 8-race season. On the left-hand side of your screen, everyone, then you can see the free practice times. Just to remind you, this doesn't actually count towards anything, but it's still a useful guide to see who the pace setters are and who perhaps is struggling a little bit out there. And Matthias Zagazzetta there in the number 8 car, I think on cold tyres out the pit lane, proving just how tricky it can be. I mean, Matthias all the way down in 21st place. Matthias, Damien, is a handy peddler, isn't it? So that really does go to show how stiff the competition is going to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think there's a better example than that, as you say. Matthias, an incredibly capable driver, did British F4 last season with Carlin, now moving to Argenti Motorsport for a second full season in 2021. Claimed 14 Rookie Cup podiums, and that includes a couple of class victories en route to third in the standings last year. His debut year in car racing, fresh out of karts. So, as you said, an incredibly talented racer, comes from Peru, and he took plenty of outright points finishes. So he's shown he has nothing to prove in the real world, very much on the path to stardom. Now it's about seeing how he comes up against some of the platform experts, as you say, the guys who really have put the hours in on iRacing. They know everything there is to know about this, and anything they don't know simply isn't worth knowing. So is a really good juncture here where virtual and real world talent meet, and in some cases both.
Yeah, you see, this is why we've got Damien in the comms box, because he is a walking, talking British Formula 4 encyclopedia. Any driver who has raced in the championship, currently races in the championship, or probably will race in the championship, Damien knows something about them. So I'm going to be trying to get as much information out of him as the night goes on. But Matthias is a name that I'm sure many of you will be familiar with. One name I'm sure, Damien, that most of our viewers are familiar with is the name at the top of the timing sheets. Luke Browning at the moment, fastest in this free practice session, and yeah, he's done a thing or two of note over the last 12 months or so, hasn't
he? Well, yeah, just a couple of bits and pieces. He's not really done much. Oh no, wait, he won the Real World Championship. Yeah, it's been a busy year for Luke. Obviously, finished runner-up in the first season of the iRacing Trophy, and as if that weren't enough headlines for 1 year, he then went and won the Real World thing outright. Must be said, was pushed right to the wire. An incredible effort from car rookie Zach O'Sullivan. You know, really unlucky in that last race to miss out on the title himself. But equally, Luke, a very deserving champion. Plenty of victories, 7 in fact, in the Real World Championship. Was an ever-present on the podium. And he had a fair crack at taking the consecutive wins record. So more than capable driver. Absolutely no stranger to audiences who watch Season 1 of the iRacing Trophy. But his chief rival from Season 1, Chris Lulham, not on the grid. So it'll be interesting to see if that gives an opportunity for somebody else to rise and take the fight to Luke.
Yeah, and right now it's quite hard, isn't it, to pick out who Luke's main rival is going to be. I mean, looking at the timing sheets here, Roman Belinsky, very quick indeed, and I'm almost a bit surprised to see just how close to Luke Browning's pace he is, less than a tenth of a second away from the top time at the moment. Kai Askey, though, up there in third position, also is likely to be a front runner, I think. I mean, even just looking at these early times, we've got 21 cars covered by less than a second. So not only is it going to be hard to pick a winner, but you've got to be on your A game here, haven't you? If you're Luke Browning and you're coming into this, quite rightly so, I'd imagine, feeling pretty confident about your chances, you can't afford any mistakes, can you? One false move in qualifying for Luke could see him right down at the back of the grid and in a world of trouble. So they've got to be on their A game here.
Yeah, and that's what we love about the UK circuits. They're tight, they're technical. You put a foot wrong, it punishes you. Some of the circuits out on Europe, there's maybe a little bit more room, a bit more runoff. It's a tiny bit more forgiving. Here, if you haven't brought your A game, you might as well go home because you're going to need it. And I think the times that we're seeing already really showing that, as you say, so many cars within a second of one another, or just a couple of tenths. And I think it's probably a good thing we've got lone qualifying, because if it's this closely matched, I think they'd be hard pushed for track space.
Yes, and you bring that up at a timely point, Damien, because free practice is now complete. The checkered flag is out on the session. Looks as though Luke Browning is going to complete the session fastest. His fastest lap time, by the way, was a 58.42. So I'm just going to make a note of that, because that's the kind of lap time that we're going to be looking for now in this qualifying session, which has now begun. So the way this works, if you're new to the British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy, is that it is a 10-minute session. All of the drivers can complete as many laps as they can within that 10-minute window. And indeed, it's already started, as you can see there, with Luke Browning, one of the first to head out onto the circuit. But you'll notice no one else in sight. And this is one of my favourite things about virtual racing and the iRacing platform in particular. We have this thing called lone qualifying, where simultaneously all 28 drivers can head out and pound around the track for 10 minutes, but they're in their own little virtual space, aren't they? So they don't have to worry about traffic. They don't have to worry about collisions or yellow flags or red flags, even, as we'd see in the real world. I bet, Damien, this is a feature that maybe people like Luke Browning wish that they could have in the real world, because it would probably make qualifying significantly less stressful.
It definitely is one of the many things that we're trying to do with this championship, and we're lucky and grateful that iRacing has it, to really make it about the driver's skill. Another really good point to make is the setups. Everybody's fixed to the same setup, so the cars are more or less identical. It really does put driver ability front and center, and it just means that a lot more things are in their control. And at the end of the day, as we've shown, the benefits of that are already coming in with how close the timings are.
So Luke Browning then on to his first flying lap of the session, although I think he's still weaving around a little bit. It looks as though it's going to take them maybe a couple of laps just to get the tyres up to the full operating window. Again, one of the reasons that we use iRacing is that it really does simulate all of the different aspects of real world racing. It's not just a case of jumping into the virtual car, heading out the pit lane and straight onto a flying lap. The drivers have to get the tyre temperatures up, have to get the pressures up. They have to do it gradually as well. If you do it too quickly, overheat the tyres, then the operating window is a lot narrower and you won't necessarily have to pace over a number of laps to set a competitive time. So Luke is just easing his way into this session. It may well be on his next lap, which he's about to start, where we start to see him really push. Luke, though, is one of the best at this, isn't he? He's a good racer, but he's a really good qualifier. He seems to be one of those drivers, Damien, who can just jump into the car, and once he's got the tyres up to temperature, get his head down and bang, straight on the pace.
Very naturally gifted driver is what I would say about Luke Browning. I mean, case in point, media day last year, he'd barely announced his Tech Motorsport drive. It really was 11th hour. And he went straight out on media day and went quickest by, I think it was about half a second off the top of my head. And that was his first time in the Tech Motorsport car. He hadn't driven the F4 car over winter because they didn't have a program together. So he hadn't been out testing, and got in the car, put it P1. Boom. You know, I think that really is part of what Luke is about as a driver. He just does seem to have a habit of, you know, pulling it out of the bag when he needs it. And that's something we saw on iRacing last year. It's something we saw in the real world. And it definitely makes him a force to be reckoned with.
Well, he's certainly pushing on this second flying lap. You can see the time starting to trickle in on the left-hand side of your screen. Roman Belinsky is quickest at the moment with a 59.552, but that's over a second away from the fastest time from practice set by this man, Luke Browning. What is Luke's first benchmark time going to be? It's surely going to go somewhere near the top. It goes right to the top of 59.2. So we're getting there. He's got just over a tenth of a second in hand over Kayaski in second. Roman Belinsky is now down to third. Roman, who raced in British Formula 4 last year with Arden and was on the podium 3 times, so certainly is one to watch over the course of the evening and indeed the next few weeks of this iRacing Trophy. Mackenzie Cresswell, though, has just gone second, so already starting to see some new names appearing near the sharp end. We're now following Kayaski then in the number 15 Carlin machine, heading up through McLean's Corner. It's a beautiful track, this Donington National Circuit, really high average speed. It's all about carrying momentum through these medium and high speed corners, and these cars are absolutely built for that. Worth mentioning as well, the eagle-eyed amongst you, I'm sure, will have spotted, these are not Formula 4 cars, they are Formula 3 cars. At the moment, the iRacing platform, unfortunately, doesn't have the Formula 4 chassis available for use. This is the next best thing, and so the driver's getting a bit of a taste of Formula 3 machinery here, but actually, performance-wise, not a huge difference between them. Luke Browning now goes quicker again into the 58-second bracket, a 58.858. Alex Palau goes second. Now, this, Damien, is a driver that we haven't mentioned yet, and we probably should have done. Alex Palau is a pretty well-known name, isn't he, in not just sim racing, but in the real thing as well, and in recent years has really started to forge a career over in America.
Yeah, absolutely. This is one of the great things about iRacing, and there are hundreds. We could be here all night talking about what makes iRacing so brilliant. But one of the things that we really found in the first series, and we've tried to extend a little bit here, is that it can give us an opportunity to bring drivers from different levels of the single-seater pyramid together. Alex Palau, IndyCar driver for Chip
Whoops.
Ganassi Racing. Obviously a GP3 Series race winner, third in Super Formula a couple of years ago, third in Japanese F3, Euro Formula, Spanish F4 runner-up. His CV is absolutely tremendous. And what a driver for drivers like Kayaski, Mackenzie Cresswell, really the next crop of drivers coming through to be able to prove themselves against. It really does give us some brilliant opportunities.
And typically, just as we start saying nice things about him, Alex Palau had a moment at Coppice, half spun into the gravel, and now has bailed for the pit lane. So
I'm gonna say that was on you. Unfortunately, I'm just a co-commentator. It's commentator's curse, not co-commentator's curse. So he can lay that one at your door, I'm afraid.
Oh, you didn't hesitate to throw me onto that particular bus, did you, Damien? Thank you. I'll willingly take the blame, though. It is usually my fault. However, Alex is quick, even if a little accident-prone in this session. He's second fastest at the moment with a time of a 59.2. But so far, Luke Browning, the only driver into the sub-59 bracket with a 58.767. Roldan Rodriguez here just coming to a halt on the pit straight. So instead, we flick to James Headley, who is down in 13th place. We're past the halfway mark already, though. This 10-minute session is absolutely flying by. 6.25 minutes have elapsed, so 4.75 minutes still to go. It's Browning on provisional pole. Palau is second, Kayaski third, Julian Moreno is in fourth, Roman Belinsky fifth, then Pablo Lopez, Mackenzie Creswell, Callum Brandt, Ashley Beard, and Alex Johnson, some of the pro sim drivers there, filling out the top 10 places. But those 10 drivers at the moment covered by just 0.6 of a second. And this driver, not one of them yet, James Headley in the JHR development car, is an exciting driver to watch. You never quite know what James is going to do next. But when he's on it, Damien, he is a real class act. And I expect him to jump into the top 10 before this session's done.
Yeah, well, you mentioned, when he's on it, see case in point, Thruxton last year took a hat-trick, emphatic, every race in the weekend in F4. He took the top step of the podium. It was an absolutely sublime performance. When James is on it, genuinely, he is one of the most exciting young drivers around. Ginetta Junior champion, BRDC Rising Star. Had, I think it's fair to say, more than his fair share of bad luck in F4 last year. Still unconfirmed what he'll do for this year. Obviously, it would be great with my F4 hat on to see him back to have another go at the championship. But, that's undecided yet. He's been doing some F3 testing as well with the Elite Motorsport team. So I think they're very much, it's up in the air, evaluating their options. But he's a fantastic driver. And I must admit, Lockdown 1, I think James very much just put something together to be able to take part. Now he's had a bit more time and a bit more experience on the iRacing platform, which is tricky to pick up. I think people assume if you're good in the real world, you can just pick up a sim surely and be on it straight away like that. It's not the case. So he's had a little bit of time to go away and practice. And hopefully we should see him up at the front virtually as well as we do in real life.
And again, your psychic abilities are coming to the fore there, Damien, because as you were saying how difficult iRacing is, Joseph Loke provided us with a graphic demonstration of that by losing control heading through Redgate Corner. So this lap, unfortunately, not going brilliantly for Joseph Loke, but the number 17 driver continues on. He's got time to get another lap or two in here, I think, before the session is over. Joseph was racing in the BRSCC's Ford Fiesta Junior Championship last year, winning 6 races from 6 starts, absolutely dominated the series, winning at basically every track that the championship visits. We don't yet know what his plans are for 2021, but I believe single-seaters very much is the plan, hence why he is in the pro class. He is 17th overall at the moment, which puts him about 6th or 7th in the pro category. Crosses the line, of course, doesn't improve this time because of the rotation that he had at the start of the lap. But hopefully should be able to find a bit more time here on what will be, I reckon, his penultimate lap of the session. But still, Damien, no one can match Luke Brown. And we probably shouldn't be surprised by this, but given how tight practice was, nearly 4.5 of a second cushion over Alex Palau is more than I thought he'd have.
Yeah, Luke clearly has just managed to get everything hooked up on his lap, and he's really put it together. Worth noting for viewers as well, if you're wondering what the colours denote on the timing screen on the left-hand side. So the black coloured cars are the pro class, so the drivers with either real-world experience of F4 or some affiliation to the championship. And the more minty coloured cars are the pro sim class that Andy mentioned.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. So that gives you a good way at home of distinguishing between the two classes. And as we kind of predicted, there's quite a lot of mixing between them at the moment. It's a pro driver on pole, a pro sim in second, and then that's repeated on row 2, 3, and 4 with one from each class. So, I mean, you couldn't really ask for a more balanced grid than that. Joseph Loke, I noticed on that lap as well, had a moment down at the old hairpin, so that wasn't an improvement. And the time has now ticked down to 0, but they are, I believe, allowed to finish the lap that they are on. So we might, no, that is it. That is the end of the session. So it's going to be Luke Browning then, who gets himself the pole position, the first pole position of the season 2 of the British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy, but he'll have some stiff opposition to face. Here is the grid then for the first 20-minute race of the season. Luke Browning on pole for Fortec with Alex Palou alongside. Kyaski and Julian Moreno on row 2 ahead of Roman Belinsky and Pablo Lopez. Mackenzie Cresswell is on row 4 with Callum Brandt ahead of Ashley Beard and Alex Johnson rounding out the top 10. Then Leon Penn and Matthew Crisp as we start getting into some of those Pro Sim drivers at the back end of the top dozen. Then it's James Headley and Georgi Dimitrov on the 7th row. Row 8 for Thomas Pintos and Kevin Zemstra, get that right at one point. Joseph Loke and Rhys Saunders are next ahead of Nicholas Falk and Matthias Zagazeta. And then towards the back of the grid, we've got Roldan Rodriguez. He should move forward from there. Dan Blake likewise on the 11th row. Joel Evans and Silas Krag-Vrolik on the 12th row alongside him. And then right at the back, the last few rows, we have got Nathaniel Hodgkiss, Jaco von Platt, Marin Kramers, a late addition to the grid, Fred Lubin and Dean Timms right at the tail end. So we are, I think, not that far away from the start of the race, and looking forward to this one. Luke Browning starting off as the firm favourite here, I would say, but anything can happen. We saw this on multiple occasions in Season 1. We see it in the real championship as well. It is a very unpredictable form of motorsport, and that charge into Redgate Corner is, I think, going to be fairly lively. Everyone, I think, is present and correct, just waiting for Marion Kramers to load into the race right at the back. He definitely is out of position, regular podium finisher and regular front runner in Season 1 of the British F4 iRacing Trophy, so his qualifying session did not go to plan. Once he manages to load himself into the 27th grid slot, we will be good to go. He's in, and this is it then. Season 2 of the British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy here from Donington Park, race number 1 of the night is about to get underway. The red light's about to illuminate. They start doing so now. And when all 5 of them go out, the charge to the first corner will begin. Luke Browning and Alex Palou on the front row of the grid. The lights are out. They're away and racing. They head towards Redgate Corner, wheel to wheel for the lead. It looks as though on the inside line it's going to be Luke Browning. Yes, Browning gets the advantage. Turns into the right-hander ahead of Alex Palou. Kyaski in third. Will they all get safely through the first corner? Well, he says, slightly incredulously, it looks like they have. No wheel banging, no wings going flying, and they now descend through the crane of curves into the old hairpin, all chasing this man, Luke Browning, with the lead of the race, and his goal now is to try and break away as quickly as he can. Palou second, Aski third, Roman Belinsky up to fourth, ahead of Julian Rodriguez in fifth position. Mackenzie Cresswell is sixth, then Ashley Beard, but there's some side-by-side action behind, and one car in the gravel, and that is Roldan Rodriguez. Roldan Rodriguez is off the road. Roldan, a former podium finisher in the GP2 series. Unfortunately, his race not starting too well. He'll be right at the back of the grid already. Well, already then, the first lap about to be completed. It's Browning with the lead, Palou second, and Damien already. The competition is as fierce as we expected.
Yeah, and we've also had one car through the pit lane already, Andy. Thomas Pintos has had to pit for repairs. He will get one fast repair. That's standard on all cars because sometimes, accidents happen. Nobody's fault. So one fast repair, he should be able to get back into the race really quickly. But a textbook start from Browning. But as we saw so often in Season 1, he does not have Chris Lullum to get a tow from and in turn give a tow to. So I don't think Browning's going to be able to break away very easily here. And Alex Palou definitely is giving him food for thought in second place.
Yeah, Alex Palou, who is an IndyCar driver for the Chip Ganassi racing team and is expected to be one of our top drivers in the Pro Sim class, but I have to say I am very impressed with the pace he's showing here. That looked like maybe Dan Blake, I think. Yeah, Dan Blake is limping back to the pits as well, so he will be hoping to utilise one of those fast repairs to get himself back in the fray. But already here we're seeing this clear 3-car breakaway, aren't we? Browning leading, Palou second, and Kyaski in third position. Now, if these 3 were to work together, they could probably pull away from the rest of the pack, as they're doing at the moment, and they might have to work together because the 4th place man, Roman Belinsky, just set the fastest lap of the race, a 59.7, more or less matching the leader, but quicker than Palou and Aski in front of him. If the top 3 start mixing it together too much, then that 4th place man, Damien, is going to reel them in quickly.
Yeah, 1.6 seconds the gap from Belinsky to the top 3 as it stands. Now, at the moment, the top 3 are being quite well behaved. It's almost as if they're just sort of sussing each other out in these opening laps, working out where perhaps they're stronger than the car in front, where perhaps they're losing a bit of time, so they can plan accordingly. So this could be a good opportunity for Belinsky if they start to really get hammer and tongs at it with each other to try and move up and get himself into a podium position. He had some great results down here at Donington Park in the first season of iRacing. He was really competitive, actually, right from the get-go. So he's looking to start similarly strongly here.
Some nice battles going on here in amongst the Pro Sim runners. This is for 10th place overall. The 96 car there is Alex Johnson. Callum Brandt right behind him. Right in front of him is Matthew Crisp. These are all racing within the same category, and so probably all know each other quite well. A lot of these Pro Sim drivers will race each other day in, day out on iRacing, and so they'll know each other's tactics, they'll know where they're each strong, and it looked as though Johnson was stronger out of Redgate there than Matthew Crisp. He tries to pull to the left-hand side. It is very difficult to run wheel-to-wheel through the crane of curves, though, and Johnson realises that. He backs out of the move. It's a little too early to be taking those sort of risks, and it's just as well because he's got another good exit there from the old hairpin, and he might now be able to make a real good go at getting through into McLean's corner. Up ahead, though, was a car in the gravel, though, and that, I think, was Kayaski. Yeah, Kayaski from the top three has been off the road. In fact, he's still off the road. This is the world's longest accident. He still has not found his way back onto the tarmac, but the Carlin driver in all sorts of trouble. Now, we'll try and find out what happened. Here we go. He was having a go at Palau, who defends the inside, and that looked like it was a netcode issue. That dreaded phrase, Damien, I was wondering when it would first crop up, but you can see here it doesn't really look like there's any contact, and just there, Aski's car jumped straight into the air and heavily into the barriers. One of the unfortunate pitfalls there of virtual racing.
Yeah, no fault there to either driver whatsoever. You know, if I never have to hear the word netcode again, it'll be too soon. It's unfortunate, but unfortunately, with virtual racing and with drivers, you know, dialing in from all four corners of the globe, ultimately, you know, that was always bound to happen at some point. Really frustrating for Kayaski. He was really acquitting himself well. Let's not forget, he was chasing down the reigning F4 champion and an IndyCar Series podium finisher before he's even made his first single-seater start in the real world. So he was really acquitting himself well there. It's unfortunate, but obviously if he can get back out into the race, the reverse grid later should hopefully give him another chance to show what he's got.
Yeah, pretty successful car to Kayaski, and definitely hoping to bring some of those skills across into the British Formula 4 Championship this year. Luke Browning, though, has been gifted a real opportunity here because he's now a second and a quarter ahead of Alex Palau in second, which means he's broken the toe. So Alex doesn't really have the advantage of a slipstream now. Having said that, though, the gap is starting to creep back down again. Now that Palau isn't watching his mirrors too much, he's able to go a little bit quicker. For 10th position, meanwhile, Callum Brandt and Leon Penn are together. Penn has already got himself ahead of Alex Johnson, and now the number 17 car for the Vulcan Racing team is trying to gain another place around the outside at the old hairpin. That surely is not possible, except it is. He goes through, and he brings with him Alex Johnson, so that was some brilliant racing there. Leon Penn on a real mission here, and having started a little bit deeper in the field maybe, is marching his way towards the front into the top 10 now. Well, actually, having said that, Leon started 11th, so perhaps a slightly sluggish start, but he's recovering well, and that was one of the best moves we'd like to see all night, I'd say.
Yeah, and it's also put him up into the top 6 overall for the Pro Sim runners. Of course, these are two classes racing on the same grid, but they score their points separately. So Leon Penn finishing 10th, sixth amongst the Pro Sim runners, will take 8 points for 6th place. So every move is crucial in this. It's not just about being in the top 10 outright, it's about where you are relative to your competition. So really important move for Leon Penn, and let's see now if he can set about closing the gap down to Callum Brandt, 2 seconds ahead of him.
There are certain things that most racing drivers have ingrained into them at a very early point in their careers that you just can't do. And I'd say that overtaking in a Formula 3 car around the outside at the old hairpin is most definitely one of them. And that is maybe one of the advantages that these Pro Sim drivers, the people that spend a lot more time on iRacing and things like that, have going for them. They almost don't have that fear factor, do they? They've maybe not had the chance to race in a real car, and so they will perhaps go for moves that some of the real world drivers might shy away from, and that, I think, was an example of that. It worked really well, though, and Leon Penn, as Damien was saying, into the top 10 now, but running well within the Pro Sim Class 2. So as we tick towards, well, just past 1/3 race distance, let's run you through the top 10. It's Luke Browning still leading. Alex Palau is second, just under 2 seconds adrift now, so he doesn't quite seem to have the pace to go after the race leader. Roman Belinsky were following here for Team Ace is third, and he's the man on the move, really. Started fifth, remember, up 2 positions from where he started, as the handy graphic on the left-hand side of your screen also tells you. Julian Moreno then is in fourth position, a further 2 and a bit seconds back. You can see him in the background with Mackenzie Creswell right behind him. Again, that is a pro sim driver ahead of a pro driver. Another example of the mixing of the classes. Pablo Lopez is in sixth position, in no man's land a bit, actually, in sixth, a couple of seconds behind these two, a couple of seconds ahead, though, of Georgi Dimitrov in seventh, eighth Matthew Crisp, Mike Callum Brandt and Leon Penn, as we just saw, spectacularly moved into the top 10, and already is closing down on Callum Brandt ahead of him. Fourth place battle then, Damien, heads towards Redgate Corner, and Mackenzie Creswell, I think, is going to have a go here.
Yeah, Cresswell just looked to the inside there, just showed his nose to try and see if he could put Moreno off slightly as they went on the run through Redgate. He's going to try and close on him now. Down through the Craner curves they go, sweeping to the right, then the left. Thinks better of a dive at the old hairpin. He's going to try and focus on getting a better exit as they now head up through Schwantz curve into McLean's. I don't know that he's close enough on this lap, but he's certainly setting himself up for a move soon.
Having a look to the inside, and he immediately tries to prove you wrong because he throws it at the apex, gets there first, and the next corner's a right-hander as well, but the momentum was with Moreno on the outside line, and so Julian manages to hang on, and actually that rather delayed Mackenzie Creswell, who had a lively practice session, shall we say. He definitely explored and I'd say found the limits of adhesion on a number of occasions in that practice session, but he's kept it clean so far. A really solid qualifying effort to qualify in 7th place, and he's now moved up 2 spots into the top 5. One of those you could argue was a bit fortunate with Kayaski's dramas, but still he's racing well, and at the moment looks a little bit quicker than Julian Moreno in front of him. They're both, though, holding each other up, and so Pablo Lopez in 6th place, who I said was a bit lonely a moment or two ago, may not be lonely for much longer because he's now only a second behind these two, who've just separated slightly once more as they go down the hill. Interesting to see here, Damien, that we're still seeing personal best lap times coming in. We're nearly halfway through this race now. I wasn't sure how tyre wear was going to work. As you mentioned, they're all running the same setup, so they haven't been able to tweak the setup to be better over a race run, for example. But by and large, they're clearly keeping the tyres underneath them, the lap times continuing to come down.
Yeah, as we said, identical setups on all the cars, so they're very much all being given the same equipment to work with, really keeping the tyres in good shape, as you said, at the moment. Interesting just to see a slight wide moment on the exit of McLean's there for Moreno. It just allowed Cresswell to get back within striking range, and up at the front as well, another driver making inroads into second place is Roman Belinsky, now just 0.8 of a second off Alex Palau.
Yeah, and Palau on the previous lap was only 1/100th of a second slower than Browning, so on the odd lap, Palau does seem able to match Browning, but just can't quite do it consistently enough to stay with him, so nearly 2.2 seconds now is the lead gap. There is the second and third place pair. I won't call it a battle just yet because there's still the best part of a second between them, but Roman Belinsky, you can see, is pushing. He's nailing these apexes. He's running right out to the edge of the road. Indeed, picks up a bit of dirt on his left-hand side tyres there as he comes out of McLean's corner. That is the sign of a driver who is pushing on, and the gap is now definitely coming down. In fact, he's really come down out of Coppice corner. He's alongside, and he's ahead. Roman Belinsky gets ahead of Alex Palau. Now, what happened then? Was that a moment for Alex, or maybe one of these dreaded slowdown penalties? I have to say, I looked at the timing screen at the crucial moment, Damien, there, but whatever it was, Belinsky needed no second invitation.
Yeah, just a wide moment onto the grass for Palau. Really unlucky. Just put a couple of wheels in, and that just took the car off. Belinsky made no mistake, took the opportunity, moved into second place, and well, maybe that's the pressure telling slightly. Maybe it's just a little bit unfortunate, like you say. But either way, Palau now coming right back at him in this battle for second place. This is not over by a long shot.
Yeah, because it's now Belinsky's turn to feel the heat from Palau, isn't it? So Belinsky, whereas earlier on he was able to get his head down and just focus on the car in front, now he's watching his mirrors, he's having to think about defending, and ultimately he's the one getting distracted by Palau behind him. So Alex, who is a very, very experienced racer at close quarters as well. You think about IndyCar racing, it's wheel to wheel at speeds well in excess of 200 miles an hour on a regular basis. So Alex knows all about wheel to wheel combat, and he will now be trying to play some of the mind games that he's learned over the years to try and maybe force a mistake out of Belinsky. It's Alex, though, that runs wide out of the chicane there. Didn't seem to slow him down much, though. He's in the slipstream heading to Redgate Corner. Doesn't go for it, just tries to wait for a better opportunity. Again, that's something that drivers learn over time, isn't it? It's sometimes tempting, as soon as you get a run on the guy in front, to just go for it immediately, but sometimes it's better to just wait for a better chance. If you go for a move that doesn't work, it can end up losing you more time than you can gain.
Yeah, absolutely. Patience is key, and I think one of the best things you can do on iRacing is almost to act as if you were driving a real racing car. You know, don't put your nose somewhere where it's not going to end well. Don't take unnecessary risks. And Palau, the leading Team Fordzilla driver in this race as well. Fordzilla, of course, the official esports team of Ford, who are one of the key partners of the real world British F4 Championship. And just having a little look again now, isn't he, at Belinsky? He's just showing the nose once in a while, trying to see if he can get a little bit of a better exit. But Belinsky, you have to say, holding his own superbly here.
Yes, he is actually, having got through. He's not yet put a foot wrong, but I think Palau is closer this time into Redgate. He might think about going for it. Yes, he does. A real lunge, gets to the apex, but he'll be wide on the exit. And Roman Belinsky is no slouch either. He read that situation perfectly. He got the better exit from the corner, and they're wheel to wheel again now, down through the Craner curve. This is very, very close to disaster, but somehow they avoid making contact, and Belinsky is back ahead. This time it's Palau's turn to get the run. He had the better line through the old hairpin. He's got the slipstream up the hill, but what he doesn't have is the inside line for McLean's. That belongs to the defensive Roman Belinsky, who somehow, against all of the odds, came out of that still in front. I have no idea how, because on 2 or 3 occasions it looked as though Palau had the better of him there, but Belinsky, maturity beyond his years, I would say there, to place the car in exactly the right position to fight back immediately, and for the time being at least, get himself back in front.
Exemplary driving from both drivers there. Palau, excellent dive into Redgate. Honestly, I thought he was going to get the move done, but Belinsky just waited, was patient, got the switch back on him, managed to get that inside line. They were side by side then, Andy, I think for what, 2/3 of a lap, if not 3/4. Fantastic racing, not one bit of contact. That's exactly what we like to see. Just a really good example of how it should be done. And Belinsky holds on to the position. Fair dues.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got to say, the Donington Park National Circuit is one of my favourites for the very reason that it does promote this kind of racing, doesn't it? When you look at a map of the place, there aren't that many sort of obvious overtaking opportunities. I suppose Redgate is one, and maybe down at the chicane at the end of the lap. But in reality, if you can carry the momentum through a sequence of corners better than the car in front, you can run side by side around a whole lap if you really want to, and that is why we love the racing here, and it's an ideal venue for the opening rounds of Season 2 of the British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy, which is not yet over. With approaching the 3/4 race distance, so just over 5 minutes still to go. 5 minutes then for Roman Belinsky and Alex Palau to resolve this titanic battle for second place. Again, look, Palau has a run, but they've got traffic ahead of them now. How is this going to play? They've not quite caught it yet, but in the next half a lap or so, they've got some lap cars to deal with, and that could just be what it takes to tip this battle in the favour of one or the other. Which one that will be, I don't know, but I think, Damien, that could be the decisive moment.
Yeah, the traffic definitely could factor in here. They're really going to have to be careful as they make their way through that. The cars, of course, will do their duty, get out the way, and let the battle continue. Side by side here now, Andy, going up towards McLean. It looks as though Belinsky, again, he just managed to get across there. Cut the move off before Palau had a chance to set it up properly. He keeps P2. And behind, we've got an equally thrilling battle as Palau continues to catch Julian Rodriguez for fourth place.
Yeah, you almost need
Cresswell, rather.
Yeah, that's right. Mackenzie Creswell in fifth position. You almost need 4 or 5 sets of eyes, don't you, to keep an eye on all of the battles raging up and down the order. But right now, the second place one is the one that is fascinating me, because there doesn't really seem to be anything to separate these two. It looks to me like the car that's behind is maybe the quickest, simply because it has the slipstream. These cars, I remember this from Season 1, they really do give off quite a strong tow, quite a strong slipstream. So there is a natural advantage to being the car behind, certainly on a high-speed track like this where you can use that slipstream. But as soon as one of them gets in front, they're unable to pull away, and that is exactly what we like to see, because it means the battle is probably going to run right down to the end of the race. All of this happening, remember, nearly 7 seconds now behind Luke Browning, who looks on course for a victory in the opening round of the championship. But who will be joining him on the podium? That much is certainly not set in stone yet. But there's a mistake there for Belinsky. He got sideways out of McLean's, but would you believe it? That slide puts him on the inside line for Coppice, and he's able to defend the position. Well, one of those back markers is throwing themselves at the scenery in front of them. Hopefully it's spotted that the second and third place cars are catching, and actually second, third and fourth, because Julian Moreno is now closer than ever, only a second behind these two. If they don't stop scrapping like this, and I don't think they will, they are likely to have company, because Moreno is bringing with him Mackenzie Creswell and Pablo Lopez, and this will only be spurring Alex Palau on. He will want to get a move on here, get ahead of Belinsky before, Damien, those cars arrive on his tail. Yeah,
of course, and were Moreno to catch Palau, that would be for the lead in amongst the Pro Sim entry. So that that would make a difference. That'd be 7 extra points for Moreno if he could just find a way past Palau into third. So really needs to be careful how he plays this, Palau. At the moment, he's on course for full points in his class, but any incident, for example, with Belinsky, and that could all unravel quickly as they go side by side again.
Oh, that was so close. Palau on the outside had no grip and nearly lost control. And yet again, that allows Belinsky to stay in front. But look, there is the man we've been talking about. Julian Moreno is right with them. So we've got at least 3, arguably 4 or 5 drivers now, all in contention for the podium places. Browning looks good for the win, but with just over 2 minutes to go, it is anyone's guess. Any 2 of these 5 drivers are likely to join him on the podium. But which 2 they will be, we know not for the time being. There they go, look across the line. 2nd, Belinsky. 3rd, Palau. 4th, Moreno. 5th, Lopez. 6th place, actually, Georgi Dimitrov has dropped back a bit now, so it's just the 4 drivers that are nose to tail, essentially, heading down through the Craner curves. Palau, the one that looks the raciest, though, yet again, closing in on Belinsky through the Craner curves. But unless you're already alongside into the old hairpin, you can't really make a move there. And then Belinsky knows exactly where to put the car. He immediately moves to the right-hand side of the road. It looks like he's going completely the wrong way through Schwant's curve, but that gives him the inside for McLean's, and that's what he wants. He takes the inside line through the corner, doesn't run too wide on the exit, and frustratingly for Palau, he can't get through. And there it is. He has a moment, and Moreno sees a chance to get alongside him, and so too does Pablo Lopez. They're 3 wide down the back straight, and Alex Palau, who looked comfortable for a 3rd place a lap or so ago, is suddenly under all sorts of pressure. Lopez backs out of it, though, and so did Julian Moreno, and that was sensible from the Fordzilla guys. I think they're a little bit of, not team orders, but just being a little bit kinder and smarter around your teammates there. They didn't want to take Palau out, and now they're left to battle for 4th place between themselves. Lopez on the outside of Julian Moreno through Redgate Corner. Can he get his nose in front through the Craners? They're still together, these 2 cars, and look at the way they've dropped away from the 2 in front of them. Who will get it? It looks as though it's going to be Lopez, Moreno, one of them. Moreno is just about going to hold on, I think, there to 4th place. Pablo Lopez stays 5th. So in the end, out of all of that, no change of position, but that was some brilliant racing.
I was just about to say, in case we didn't have enough things to think about, the teammate dynamic was another, and you saw it there from the Fordzilla guys. Currently, they're locking out the entire Pro Sim podium. They didn't need to take any risks, and as Luke Browning comes across the line to start his final lap, Andy, I think they did the sensible thing there. They've just lived to fight another day.
Yeah, there was not much chance that all 3 of them were going to get round that chicane in one piece if they'd have continued the way they were going. So yeah, sensible approach there. It certainly worked for Palau because it gives him one more lap now to try and chase after Roman Belinsky. There is no catching this man, though. Luke Browning, as you said, is on his final lap. You can see the time has now elapsed, so this will be the final lap of this first round of the championship. And this has been, I would say, a textbook race. He got a good start, held the lead into the first corner, withstood the early pressure from Alex Palau, but then when he and Kayaski tangled up at McLean's, that really gave Browning the momentum that he needed to break the toe. And from there, he has not looked back. He heads out of Coppice Corner for the final time, and Luke Browning for Fortec Motorsport, I think, is going to come home a winner and score the 25 juicy championship points that will earn him, giving him, therefore, the early championship lead. Out of the final chicane he comes then, and Luke Browning, the 2020 Formula 4 champion, is the winner of round number 1 of the 2nd season of the British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy. 2nd place looks as though it is going to go to Roman Belinsky after a race-long ding-dong battle with Alex Palau, who comes home 3rd, the first of the Pro Sim drivers home. Julian Moreno and Pablo Lopez make it a 14 Fordzilla 1, 2, 3 in the Pro Sim class. 3rd, 4th and 5th overall for those drivers. Georgi Dimitrov is 6th, then it's Callum Brandt, Matthew Crisp, Alex Johnson and Leon Penn rounding out the top 10. Well, Luke Browning made that look relatively easy, but I think if we've learnt one thing from that race, Damien, it's that we're in for a very, very entertaining 4 race nights, aren't we, over the next month? Because the racing behind him could not have been better.
Yeah, if that was the introduction, I can't wait until we actually get into the plot of this season, if you like. Textbook performance by Browning, made a great start and just held everybody just at arm's length. And of course, when that unlucky moment came for Palau and Askey, it gave him an opportunity to break clear. Full credit to him. He absolutely made the most of that. A deserving winner of the first race of last year. And I forgot to mention as well, that pole position means he is still the only driver to have taken pole position in the F4 iRacing Trophy. That quite remarkable record continues. And he's going to be rightly delighted with this. But I think Belinsky, can be thrilled with the defensive driving there to take 2nd. And the 3 Fordzilla guys, that was that was absolutely a blueprint of how teammates should race each other safely and effectively on track. They've taken a clean sweep of the podium amongst the sim racers, very much deserved. And if that was the first race, I can't wait until we throw a reverse grid into the mix.
Yeah, yes, actually, if you thought that was exciting, you ain't seen nothing yet, because now for race 2, we have a full reverse of the grid. So all of the finishers from race 1, that is, which I think was everyone in the end. Yeah, all 28 drivers. No, there might have been one non-finisher. So it'll be about 27 drivers, I think, that get reversed to form the grid for race 2, which actually means we will have some quick drivers at the front. People like Fred Lubin is going to be up there. I think James Headley will be somewhere in the top 10. Drivers that had a bit of bad luck in that first race will have themselves a good grid position for race 2, whereas some of the front runners from this one will have a little bit more overtaking to do. Well, fantastic racing there. Luke Browning taking the race victory in round number 1 of the championship. We'll have a word with our podium finishers in a moment or so. Whilst we're waiting for them to make their way to the podium, though, Damien, a quick word on Kayaski, because I do feel that was a very unfortunate incident for him, an unfortunate result, but he recovered quite well, actually. He got himself into the top 15, I think, so no points, but he did come through the field nicely. That could, though, be a championship-defining moment, couldn't it? Because I think Kayaski is likely to be a championship contender in Season 2. Will he look back at the end of the season and rue that unfortunate moment?
Yeah, I mean, there is an incredibly long way to go. We're 1/8 of the way through now. Admittedly, we're a lot closer to the end than we would have been at the same stage last year. Obviously, fewer race nights, but it was just unfortunate for Kai. There's nothing he could do in that situation. There's nothing Palau can do in that situation. It's just netcode. It's unfortunate. It happens. But as you say, the recovery drive's superb. And if that's a sign of things to come, starting in the middle of the pack in race 2, I would fully expect we're going to start to see him make some progress and come through. 2 drivers who did make a lot of progress in that first race, I just want to give a shout out to Georgi Dimitrov, made up 8 positions to get into the top 6, and Marin Kramers, who joined the lobby about 10 minutes before we came on air tonight, made up 14 positions from 27th on the grid to finish 13th. If that's anything to go by, he might be one to watch in the next race as well.
Yeah, I just spotted that, and Jaco van der Plat as well, right behind him, 14th in the race, having started 26th. So it goes to show that you can make progress through the field. It's not impossible to overtake in this series, so that will give people like Luke Browning and Roman Belinsky maybe a little bit of hope going into the second race, the reverse grid race. But certainly, to get right to the front of the field might be a little more than they're able to achieve. Right, drivers are slowly but surely starting to make their way towards them. We've got a limited time here before the second race gets underway. So, Damien, I think our second place finisher, Roman Belinsky, is here to have a chat with us.
Hello.
Hi, Roman. It's Damien up in the commentary box. Can you hear us okay?
Yep, all good.
Fantastic start to the season from you. Some incredible defending. You've just managed to keep an IndyCar podium finisher behind you for about half the race. How was it from your side?
Honestly, it was so tough. I mean, Alex did a great job the whole race, putting so much pressure on me, and yeah, it was really tough. I think it was a bit unlucky for Kai at the start, so I gained a place there, and I think Alex ran wide at turn 8, so I just was able to get past and then just defend him the whole race.
And Andy mentioned on commentary to the guys watching at home that the toe here, especially at a high speed circuit in this car, it can be incredibly tough to deal with. Did you feel that difference from when you swapped from attacking to defending?
Yeah, 100%. The toe was huge, and I mean, any time that I say gained in the first sector was definitely lost on the back straight and main straight. And Alex was really strong in the last corner as well, which didn't help me.
And just to round off, obviously second place, first race of the year. Quite a number of the drivers that pushed Luke Browning a long way in the last year's iRacing trophy, not on the grid this year. You've obviously had time to do more racing and get more experience. Do you really see this now as something you can kick on from and really start to have a challenge to win it outright this year?
Yeah, 100%. I think obviously you've got to take each round how it comes, and we'll see from there. But I mean, hopefully we can put some pressure to Luke in the later rounds.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Roman, and congratulations on your second place to kick off the year. Brilliant result.
Thank you.
Awesome stuff. Well, there you go then. Roman Belinsky arrives in style in the British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy, finishing second, but the race win went to Luke Browning, and Luke joined us now. Well, Luke, I've read this script somewhere before. Luke Browning turns up in the British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy, qualifies on pole, wins the race by a country mile. Easy.
It's a good race. Yeah, I mean it's a nice way to enter 2021. The first, well, I guess the first race against my peers that I should be competing against. So it's looking strong. And if we look from last year and how we finished and how we did in the championship, it's always a good tell.
I have to say, I know I jokingly say that was easy. I mean, you did make it look easy in the second half of the race, but those early laps, it didn't look like you were able to just streak away, really, until the battles behind started to hold other guys up. Did you find that it was a bit harder to make the break than you expected?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, on them cold tires and with the new model, the slipstream's really large, so the dirty air is not too bad, and the slipstream's quite good. So if you're within 7/10 and you're within 3/10 a lap, it's quite easy to stay. But yeah, I got quite lucky. It was, I mean, Alex behind me there, he's a very, very good driver, and I raced with him in the 24, yesterday. So I know his skills on track, and yeah, I mean, it was nice to be able to break away and just give myself a bit of breathing room.
Now, since we last spoke to you on these broadcasts, at least, you've been racing in the real world British Formula 4 Championship, and I think it's fair to say you had a pretty good season, didn't you? Massive congratulations on sealing the crown. That must mean so much to you.
Oh, massive amounts. Yeah, I mean, as in Fortec, we've had a smile glued to our face, and hopefully the guys are watching at home now, and with the beer in their hands, sort of, cheers and and so on. Yeah, it's really has been a phenomenal off season. Yeah, smiles glued to our faces. It's always nice going into 2021 champions. I just hope that we come out of 2021 champions as well.
That is certainly the plan, and I'm sure you'd love to go into the 2021 season with the iRacing trophy under your belt as well. That's a long way away yet, but you've certainly started in the right way.
Yep, I've come to collect it this year. It's mine.
There you go. Signalling his intent for everyone. I hope everyone else was listening to that, Luke. Congratulations on the win, and best of luck for race 2.
Thank you. Cheers.
So Luke Browning then gets the race victory in round number 1, and I think we can now hear from Alex Palau as well. Well, Alex, congratulations on 3rd position, but that was not easy, was it? A brilliant race.
Hey, thank you, Andy. No, that was not easy. I was P2. I think I was like easy P2, and then I went off alone. And also I touched with Kai, I think. No, Kyle. I don't know the name, sorry. But yeah, I touched, I think it was netcode. I left enough space and he left enough space, but he just couldn't turn. So yeah, shame, but it was fun, lots of fun. But could you please put some BOP to look, like just some 20 kilos or something?
I'll see what I can do about that. You shouldn't need it though, Alex, because you're a pretty handy driver as well. And of course, we've enjoyed watching you racing over in America, racing in IndyCar with some decent success as well of late. But racing these cars on iRacing, is that something that you get the chance to do much of at the moment? Because I'd imagine you're quite busy with your real racing.
Yeah, well, to be honest, yeah, we're busy preparing with testing and just preparing all this in general. But I still have some time to do it. So I enjoy a lot. I enjoy doing races with these guys. We just did Daytona, and it was awesome, to be honest. So yeah, I'm having fun, and I'll try and have some fun in iRacing till I can, till we start doing some races as all the guys, I guess.
I'm surprised you're even awake right now then if you've just finished the Daytona 24. That's dedication for you. What are your thoughts ahead of race 2 just quickly then, because it's a full reversed grid. It's going to be even busier, isn't it?
Oh, is it full? So I'm starting 3rd last?
I think so.
Oh my God, I didn't know that. So yeah, I think it's going to be crazy. So it's going to be nice to watch. We have a fast repair, right?
Yeah, just the one
Yeah.
though, so you got to be a bit careful.
Just one, yeah. I think I'm gonna need to use that, but yeah, it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be really, really fun to watch, to race, and hopefully I can keep up with Luke, and I think I'll try to follow him and see what we can do.
That sounds like a very good plan. Well, great to have you on board, Alex. Thank you for taking the time to come and race with us, and well done on the podium. So Alex Palau then gets himself onto the podium, and Damien, really great to hear from those guys there, and the enthusiasm they've got for season 2 is palpable, isn't it?
Yeah, and where else do you get a British F4 champion, an IndyCar Series podium finisher, and one of the brightest talents in the UK at the moment together in the same room? It's fantastic what this iRacing trophy does to just bring people together from all different bits of the motorsport community. And as you can see on your screen now, that just confirms the race 1 result.
Yeah, let's run through that then. Luke Browning with the win by nearly 11 seconds in the end from Roman Belinsky in second, Alex Palou third, the three that we just heard from, and of course Alex winning in the Pro Sim class as well. From his teammates, Julian Moreno and Pablo Lopez, fourth and fifth overall, Georgi Dimitrov in sixth ahead of Callum Brandt, Matthew Crisp, Alex Johnson and Leon Penn to round out the top 10. Then it's Kevin Zemstra, Mackenzie Cresswell a bit further down than I expected there in 12th, but Marion Kramer's the biggest mover of the race, gained 14 positions from his starting place to finish 13th overall. Jaco van Platt was on the move as well to 14th. Kai Aski was on the move, but the wrong way, battling for second. Then that netcode contact saw him drop down to 15th, ahead of Ashley Beard, Reece Saunders, and Silas Cragg-Frolick in 18th place. Then just outside, towards the back of the top 20, I should say, Nathaniel Hodgkiss and James Headley ahead of Nicholas Falk and Roldan Rodriguez. Joel Everans, Fred Lubin, Thomas Pintos, Dan Blake was in trouble earlier on. He had to limp into the pit lane for repairs. Joseph Loke also had dramas. And Matthias Zagazeta never really got going in that one. Hopefully we'll see more from him in race number 2. So Damien, some interesting names there, a little bit further down the order than I expected. They'll be desperate to try and bounce back in race 2.
Yeah, and that's exactly what the reverse grid is designed to give them. It's just another opportunity to get something out of the night and show what they're made of. And I'm sure, like you say, plenty of fast guys down there at the back in race 1. Some through bad luck, and obviously it is a very busy grid, so these things sort of happen. But they've got another chance in race 2, and I'm sure most of them will take it.
Yeah, absolutely. And race 2, don't forget, is not that far away. The second race, full 20 minutes with a full reversed grid, which I don't think is what Alex Palou was expecting or indeed hoping for, but it means that he's going to have lots of overtaking to do. Hopefully you'll all be able to stay with us as well, because that second race I think should be well worth sticking around for. The drivers are just changing over from one server to the next, and we'll need to do that momentarily as well. And that second race is going to be an absolute thriller. Damien, I think we need these few minutes in between just to calm ourselves down after the first race and sort of mentally prepare ourselves for race 2.
Yeah, absolutely. Just going to take a quick break and a reset. And we're going to do the same here on the live stream. But in the meantime, we're going to leave you with a little look at what Momentum Social have been doing over the last year. Momentum Social are a digital agency, and they work really closely with British F4, both in the real world and, of course, in producing the iRacing trophy. So sit back. We'll be with you again in a few moments and enjoy what they've been up to with their clients for the last 12 months.
Rallied a match. And you'll see the 2 filters right ahead of you. Take a selfie, you're ready to race.
We are over.
Andy, this would be a good.
Welcome back, everyone, to the British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy. Season 2 is well underway now here with the first race of the championship in the books, and a very familiar look to the front of the field as well, at least with our race winner, Luke Browning, the runner-up in Season 1, but the real-world champion in 2020, taking top honours in a dramatic first race that saw some titanic battling going on behind him. And we're expecting more of the same here in race number 2, which is only a couple of minutes away. Andy McEwen up here in the virtual commentary box alongside me. Again, virtually speaking, at least, is Damien Meaden. And Damien, looking forward to this one, I'm sure. But as much as we enjoy this whole iRacing thing, Damien, we're both itching to get back to the real thing. And there was an announcement, wasn't there, a week or so ago about the 2021 season. Need to train myself into saying 2021 now, being delayed slightly because of the COVID-19 pandemic going on, but it's still looking like being a really enthralling season, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. 2021 is very much still full steam ahead. Obviously, we've had to push the season back by a month due to the current situation we all find ourselves in. I nearly said that phrase, these unprecedented times, which I think I've heard about 4 million times in the last 12 months or so, so I won't fall into that particular trap. But yeah, with everything going on, it just made sense to push the season back slightly, and we fully support the British Touring Car Championship organisers, TOCA, in doing that. And it's also meant that we've got a bit of a reshuffled calendar. We're going to Thruxton first, which is a new one for us, but it's a great circuit. Sometimes it produces our best racing of the year, so that's certainly going to be something to look forward to. It is another delay, but we waited 8 months last year for our first race, so doing an extra 4 weeks really doesn't feel like that much. And we've got this fantastic iRacing action to keep us entertained in the meantime, so no problem.
Yeah, things could be a lot worse, couldn't they? Let's be honest. At least we've got some racing to keep us going. And yeah, looking forward to that Thruxton season opener. First time since 2010, I think it is, that Thruxton has hosted the opening TOCA race event of the season. And an awful lot has happened since then, that's for sure. Right then, an awful lot is about to happen in the next 20 minutes because the cars are gridding up. It is a full reversal, remember, apart from one driver, who we'll get to in a moment or two. So it's those that struggled in race 1 who are at the front this time. Therefore, Joseph Loke and Dan Blake for Year 1 Racing on row 1. Thomas Pintos and Fred Lubin, 2 quick drivers, share the second row ahead of Joel Evans and Roldan Rodriguez. Nicholas Falk and James Headley are on row 4 ahead of Nathaniel Hodgkiss and Silas Cragg Frolik. Then it's Rhys Saunders and Ashley Beard on the 6th row of the grid. Row 7 sees Kai Askey, one to watch for sure, the Carlin driver, alongside Jaco von Platt. And then the 8th row is where we find the biggest mover from race 1. Well, he gained 14 places in the first race. If he does that again here, he'll be on the podium. Marion Kramer's 15th on the grid, ahead of Mackenzie Cresswell. Then it's Kevin Zemstra and Leon Penn, Alex Johnson and Matthew Crisp getting into some of the top 10 drivers now, ahead of Callum Brandt and Georgie Dimitrov. Then it's Pablo Lopez and Julian Moreno on the 12th row. Row 13, then we will see Alex Palau and Roman Belinsky with the race 1 winner Luke Browning at the back, alongside DNF from race 1, Matthias Zagazzetta. Lights out then, we're away and racing in round number 2 of the British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy. A bad start there from the second row, and there's contact further back in the midfield. James Headley's involved, one of the Year 1 racing cars as well. I think Alex Johnson's in the air too. Well, after such a squeaky clean start in race 1, the second race, rather predictably, has gone awry already, but it's Dan Blake who has got the lead. Joseph Loke had the advantage into turn 1, then slid wide. Blakey goes through, and Fred Lubin is second, but now Fred Lubin wants to go first. Up the inside, through the old head, and they're going to be 3 wide through Starkeys. This will not end well. Someone has to back out, and it's Joseph Loke sensibly who does so. Dan Blake then retains the advantage into McLean's corner, with Frederick Lubin trying to go through on the inside. Blake's on the dirty side of the road, and Lubin finally makes his way into the lead of the race. Joseph Loke, I think, will go through into second as well, because Blake on the dirty side of the road has no grip. He's got dirt on his tyres, and the leader goes round as well. Frederick Lubin is off onto the grass, having worked so hard for the first 2/3 of the lap to get the lead away. On cold tyres, he's overcooked it, and Mr. Patient, Joseph Loke, who was quite happy to back out of that 3 wide moment, has found himself leading the end of lap number 1, but he's had a slowdown coming out of the chicane, and he has to hand it back to Dan Blake. Blake then gets the lead back. Nicholas Falk is second, Thomas Pintos third, Loke down to 4th, make that 5th behind Kevin Zemstra, who has picked up 13 places on the opening lap alone. Loke down to 5th position, and Damien, I need to stop talking, otherwise I might just fall off my chair. What a dramatic start to the race.
Oh my goodness. I was about to say you couldn't have predicted it, but we absolutely did. And an absolutely frenetic start to the second race. I won't talk about the stuff you've already seen. I'll talk about the stuff you didn't see. Roman Belinsky up 19 places on that first lap into 7th place. Luke Browning, the winner, now up 17 spots into P10. And Alex Palau, who thought he was going to need that fast repair, up 11 spots into 14th. So the front runners from race 1 very much making their way into the frame for race 2. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see it all coming to a head towards the end of the race as they continue to make that progress.
Yes, indeed. Right, I'm trying to take stock of where we are here. Roman Belinsky is following Alex Johnson and Kevin Zemstra, who are side by side. Zemstra, they're going through, Johnson going through ahead of Zemstra. Belinsky will now try to take advantage. This is 5th, 6th and 7th places together, and Belinsky is making some really good progress. Luke Browning, look, is the next car behind them now as well. So Belinsky has crucially kept Browning behind him, and he elbows aside Kevin Zemstra there through turn 1. So that's a place gain for both Belinsky and Browning as well, as it happens. Those two then picked their way through the carnage. Some were not so lucky. Marion Kramers was a late entry tonight. He might be wishing that he had simply chosen to sit and watch these two races because he's had no luck. He's been off on the first lap. So too has Mackenzie Creswell, Nathaniel Hodgkiss, Matthias Sagazeta, Silas Craig-Froelich, Julian Moreno as well. They are a few of the drivers that I think were involved in the rather spectacular pile-up right at the start of the race. So too was James Headley and Roldan Rodriguez, so a few of the big names in trouble earlier on. And we're seeing here, Damien, this early shuffling, which we kind of expected with drivers who were deep in the field, wanting to get to the front as quick as they can, because right at the front of the field, we have Dan Blake. Now, Dan Blake is not a driver that we saw racing with us in the first season, of course. He's maybe not a driver that many of you are familiar with, but a very handy peddler on iRacing is Dan Blake, racing for Year One Racing. And Damien, he's 4.2 seconds clear after 3 laps. That's magnificent.
Yeah, Dan Blake here very much making hay while the sun shines. Some of the faster guys are still stuck behind this battle for second. It's basically everybody at the old hairpin. Oh, there's been contact. There's a big crash on the exit there as well. That's definitely going to help the likes of Luke Browning and Roman Belinsky, who've gone up to 2nd and 4th in a matter of moments.
That was Joseph Lote getting into the back, I think, of Niklas Falk. We'll have to see that again, but that is big drama then for one of our expected front runners, who is going to be a long way down the order. Here's the replay. Look, we're on board with Loke. On the inside is Falk. He's going for a move there, trying to get past Thomas Pintos. He bailed out of it, and Joseph Lote ran straight into the back of him and then over the top of the 77 car of Thomas Pintos. Now, they've both been able to rejoin, and that is where, in the real world, drivers would have been very grateful if they had a halo attached to their cars. Ugly, some people may think they are, but that's exactly the kind of accident they're designed to protect the driver from. Thankfully, in iRacing, that's not such a concern, but that was very spectacular nonetheless. Right, Roman Belinsky here into 2nd position now, and Luke Browning is right there with him, so they're side by side here. Amazingly, Roman Belinsky and Luke Browning into podium places already. They are 4.5 seconds off the race lead. Now, Damien, what do? Do they work together to catch Dan Blake? Or do they battle each other, knowing that this could be the championship lead battle here, right in front of us?
Well, not to do our race leader a disservice, but they've been gaining on him whilst battling, so I don't know how much difference currently that is going to make. You've got to consider Dan Blake not getting a tow from anybody in front of him. He's out the front in clear air. Luke Browning, of course, has a nice slipstream from the back of Belinsky's car here to benefit him. I suppose they'll wait and see. There's still 15 minutes to go, Andy. It's a long way left to go. And at the moment, they're keeping it really clean, really tidy, and they are closing in on Dan Blake. I think it's another 0.8 of a second off on this lap. So no need for any urgent action, I think. But if they're not making inroads towards the end, I think Luke Browning will do exactly what he's doing as I say that. And he's made a move. He's going to try and go through for 2nd place, but Belinsky will not give this up easily. He cuts back across on the run down Hollywood, and he keeps the position. Yeah,
Roman Belinsky is not an easy man to overtake. Just ask Alex Palau, who spent basically half the race, just over half the race in race 1, trying to get ahead of Roman Belinsky, only to find that he is capable of making this Dallara Formula 3 car very wide indeed. Again, Browning has a lunge at the inside at McLean's. These lunges are very spectacular, but they're A, not working, and B, quite risky. All it takes here is the slightest tangling of wheels, and they'll both be careering into the gravel trap and scoring no points. Now, Luke will be well aware of that, of course. He knows how to put together a championship campaign, after all, but he clearly feels that he is capable of going quicker than Belinsky. They're not taking the same amount of time out of Blake this time around. In fact, Blake is fractionally quicker than them because they're doing this, running side by side. They're wheel to wheel again now across the line. And look at the way that Browning backed out there. He lifted off the throttle. He didn't want Belinsky Belinsky to defend into Redgate Corner because he knew that would hold them both up and lose them time, not only to Blake in front of them, but Alex Johnson behind them. Alex Johnson is looking really strong. He was at the back end of the top 10 in race 1, but Alex Johnson is very much a factor here, and he is racing for the Alcantech Simulation X Fiercely Forward team, which is a bit of a mouthful, but he, Nicholas Falk and Jacco van der Plat are all teammates here in this series, and at the moment Johnson flying the flag for that team and flying it very, very well.
Yep, absolutely, doing a sterling job. Somebody else doing a sterling job, as you've alluded to, is Dan Blake up the front. He's lost about a tenth and a half on this lap to Belinsky and Browning, but when you consider how dominant Luke Browning was in the first race, it's no mean feat to be keeping pace with them. There he is in the very brightly coloured green and purple Year 1 car. Leading the way at the moment, 3.3 seconds as the guys chasing him come out of the chicane. You can see them behind. A few other cars making their way out of the pits, having used their repairs. And Dan Blake, well, he's definitely taken full advantage of all the opportunities presented to him so far. He's leading fairly comfortably. And as Luke Browning goes to the inside, Andy, is this going to be a change for second place?
It might be, because he's got the right line when they get down to the old hairpin. That's the inside line, but can Belinsky hang on? He might not on the way in, but on the exit, he'll be quicker. And now he gets that slipstream. Remember, iRacing have made a few updates in the last month or so, and we heard Luke Browning touching on this after race 1. One of the things they've changed is the slipstream. It's now a lot stronger than it used to be. It's therefore a lot easier to follow, a lot harder to lead, and that is what now I think Luke Browning is finding. He can't break away here from Belinsky, who is harrying him as they come out of Coppice Corner. Browning finally edges ahead, but now watches the slipstream, pulls Roman Belinsky right back onto the gearbox of Luke Browning's number 11 Fortec car in front. Browning has no choice but to defend the inside line, and this is exactly what they didn't want to be doing, because they're now dropping time to Dan Blake in front of them. Dan is now nearly 4.6 seconds clear, and although Browning is into second place, he's not making inroads into him because he can't shake off Belinsky and Johnson behind him. And how long is it going to be, do you think, Damien, before Alex Johnson decides, much as I'm enjoying watching this battle, I'd quite like to be a part of it? Because right now he's not really getting too involved, but I think at some point he may have no choice.
Yeah, I would imagine he's feeling pretty patient at the moment. His last lap time fairly consistent with Dan Blake, so I don't know whether he'd have the pace to close in 4.5 seconds to the leader, so it might be that second place is as good as it might get, as Belinsky with another dive to the inside. I tell you what, Andy, we praised his defending in race 1. He's just shown there that he's just as good at attacking, and Luke Browning now under pressure, as I think Johnson's going to go for the final spot on the podium. Oh, he just can't manage it as he went over the inside curb there.
Well, that's the answer to my question then, isn't it? How long before he decides to get involved? Well, about 2/3 of a lap, because by the time they got to Coppice, he was up the inside of Browning. Didn't go through, but signalled his intent there that he definitely isn't going to just let these two disappear up the road. So Roman Belinsky back into second now then. Luke Browning third, but for how much longer? Because Johnson is now up the inside. Look, goes to the inside line at Redgate Corner and goes through. Yes, takes the proper racing line on the exit. So Alex Johnson demotes the race 1 winner off the podium. This race is not quite going to plan now for Luke Browning, and they might have touched there slightly. There was just a puff of white smoke as they went down through the crane of curves, which I don't think was tyre smoke. I think that was, well, it may have been tyre smoke, but a tyre rubbing on a wing rather than a brake lock-up at that part of the circuit. Wheel to wheel again, though, and Browning once again finds himself on the inside line from McLean's, goes back through. Look, though, at what this is doing. Finally, Roman Belinsky is getting away. He's over a second clear of these two already, and as soon as he breaks away from them, he starts going quicker than the leader. The gap down to 4 seconds. We need to watch that. It started at around 4.5 seconds. We'll have to see if he can indeed reel in Dan Blake. Further back, Pablo Lopez having another good race here in 5th position. I think he's the highest placed at the moment of the Team Ford Zilla cars. Kevin Zemstra behind him, Callum Brantley on Penn, Fred Lubin doing well, and Alex Palau into the top 10 now. So whilst Alex isn't making the same progress as Belinsky and Browning have, he has inched his way now into the points.
Belinsky was 0.2 quicker than Browning on that last lap, and he's brought, crucially, the gap down to Dan Blake by about half a second. So Belinsky now looks like he might just have enough. He's 1 second clear of Luke Browning. Will that be enough to negate the effects of the tow? Does that give Belinsky the clear air now to really try and match Blake lap for lap and bring that gap down? He's another 0.3 quicker on this lap already, and you can see it there on the left-hand side of your screen. The gap is coming down between first and second all the time. I think this really is going to be a very highly charged last 9 minutes or so.
The only thing I think that can save Dan Blake here is Luke Browning, because Luke Browning on this lap is inching back towards Belinsky. If he catches him, that might start slowing the two of them down. And we saw a few laps ago what effect that has on their lap times, but you're absolutely right, Damien. The gap is coming down almost by a full second this time. Dan Blake does a 1 minute 0.54. Belinsky comes through and does a 59.7, so he's 8/10 faster. And Luke Browning, they're going even quicker than that. Look, a purple time next to his name. That means it's the new fastest lap of the race, which previously was held by the 5th place man, Pablo Lopez. But Luke Browning is now going quicker. So these two not only are closing on the leader, but they're closing on each other. We are, though, into the second half of the race. We're coming up to 12 minutes now, so just over 8 minutes to go. It's one thing catching Dan Blake, but you can be absolutely sure, can't you, that when they do catch him, if they catch him, he is not going to just pull over and let them go. This would mean a huge amount to Dan to win this race. This is one of the biggest stages he's competed on, and he will want to try and fend these two off. So if they are going to do this, they need to catch him sooner rather than later, just to give them the time to actually find a way through.
You know, my heart skipped a beat for a moment there. We were just riding on board with Browning, and I think you did the same. I just heard the hesitation. There was a car off to the left-hand side. Not sure who that was. It might well have been a back marker getting out the way quite sensibly. Now, Browning has a fantastic run on Belinsky. 1/10 back, but that's not close enough. But they are now less than 2 seconds from Dan Blake. And, you know, to give Dan his credit, as you've said, they might be reeling him in, but he is a hard man to pass. And it's going to be a completely different story altogether once they catch up to him. I'm really fascinated to see how this goes in the last few minutes, because unlike before, Belinsky and Browning now battling. They've pulled away from Johnson, so they don't have to watch the mirrors. And despite the battling, they are still catching, unlike about 5 or 6 minutes ago.
Yes, but the thing is, once they catch Dan Blake, Belinsky and Browning also have to sort it out between themselves, don't they? So obviously they'll both be wanting to get past Dan, but Luke may see that as his chance to start attacking Belinsky again. If Belinsky's getting held up by Blake, it could allow Browning to seize a chance to go through as well. But the gap is now coming down towards a second. Now, I think when you're within about a second of the car in front, you will start to get that slipstream effect, and that's just about starting to happen now. I think you can see there the top 3 cars all in the same shot. Further back, by the way, here's Alex Palau, and he has caught Leon Penn and Frederick Lubin. So this is that's Frederick Lubin and I think James Headley a lap or 2 down after his start line shunt. So this overtake is not for position for Alex Palau, but the next one will be. Dives up the inside of Headley, who, yes, does let him go. I thought he might try and race him through the corner then for a second, but he does let him go, as he should, because Alex Palau is a lap ahead of him and trying to work his way further up the points. And from a championship position, Alex needs to try and work his way further up through the points, because Belinsky and Browning at the moment are set to score quite heavily. Second for Belinsky, third for Browning, and they are now both only a second, well, in fact, under a second for Belinsky, away from the race leader and the 25 championship points you get for winning a race. So Palau will have one eye on that, I'm sure. Maybe be a bit disappointed that he hasn't been able to go with them. Here we are then, leading 3 out of the chicane. We have got just over 5.5 minutes to go. Well, they've almost caught him. What can they do about Dan Blake? Roman Belinsky and Luke Browning have almost done the easy bit. Now they've got to try and find a way through.
Yeah, and of course, worth mentioning that Dan Blake not scoring points in the same championship to Belinsky and Browning. He, of course, is in the Pro Sim category, like Alex Palau. Belinsky and Browning very much in the same championship battle together. And, of course, Browning won the first race from Belinsky. So for Roman, this is really a case of tying the points up after one race night. So I think you can safely bet your house, even in these troubled economic times, that Belinsky is going to make that the widest Dallara F3 possible. He really is going to want to, at the very least, keep second, but you know, whilst you're there, you're going to want the glory of winning the race, aren't you? And I think they really have reeled Dan Blake in now. I think they are going to be 3 for the lead into the chicane.
So is Belinsky willing to risk the class win to go for the overall win? That's the real question here. Well, we're about to find out, because he is now within striking range of Dan Blake, but he clobbers the curb there through the second part of the chicane. Blake just pulls another car length or so on him there. And again, the time keeps ticking down. He's less than 5 minutes to go now. If Belinsky's going to do this, he needs to watch out for Luke Browning, who absolutely launches himself up the inside line and takes second place. That caught me by surprise. It caught Roman Belinsky by surprise as well. Look at this. You will never see a finer example of outbraking into Redgate Corner. He ducked out at the very last second and crucially made the corner. This should make for some exciting viewing. On board with Browning, goes to the inside, stops the car, doesn't run even an inch wider than he should do through the middle of the corner, and seizes second place. But now, this is what I said. Browning's into second place, but he can't challenge Dan Blake because Roman Belinsky wants the class lead back. So maybe that's an indication that the class victory is what they're really going for here. They're maybe willing to let Dan Blake have the overall win. They're more concerned about beating each other. Browning starts to defend his second place now into the chicane. puff of tyre smoke on the horizon. That means the back markers are on their way. Just another fascinating thing to throw into this already enthralling battle for the lead. 3 cars battling together and less than 5 minutes to go.
And behind, we've got several battles developing as well. Pablo Lopez now on the back of Alex Johnson for second in the Pro Sim class. So those 2 positions on the podium being debated. And if you look at the gaps, Andy, they're being pulled back into this lead battle. We could be as many as 5 cars for the lead by the end of this race if they carry on. And you have to say, Browning and Belinsky, since Browning made what was quite frankly an outrageously good move into Redgate, they're still side by side. And I think Belinsky is going to try and go back round the outside and take the position away. This is sublime stuff. So nearly contact. I think there may even have been a little bit. Dan Blake will push on regardless into the sunset here at Donington Park. Belinsky spun.
Oh, Belinsky, Roman Belinsky pointing the wrong way. And we didn't. Oh, he's lost it as he rejoined as well. That looked like it could have got worse. There's the first bit of wheel banging. So they made contact through McLean's. Now, was it more contact? Oh, no, it wasn't. He was too eager with the right foot. Lost the rear of the car and was lucky not to get collected there by Johnson and Lopez behind. We've had, though, whilst we're watching this, a change for the lead. I can see on the timing screens that Luke Browning has got himself ahead of Dan Blake. We didn't see how it happened, but Luke Browning, as soon as he was unshackled, as soon as he'd shaken off the car behind him, he was able to challenge Dan Blake. Look, goes to the outside in traffic as well into Redgate Corner, and in the end makes it look quite easy. So Luke Browning, I think I referred to him as being Teflon coated in season 1, and yet again, that is the case. He's wormed his way through from 27th on the grid to the lead with 2.5 minutes to go, and the amount of drama and chaos and confusion he's had to dodge along the way means this is going to be right up there amongst possibly the most impressive wins we've seen from him in the iRacing Trophy over a season and a bit now of competition. He's pulling away from Dan Blake and looks good now for the double tonight.
Yep, another really well-judged move by Browning into Redgate. This time the outside line on Dan Blake, who I think decided that discretion may be the better part of valour there. Just let him go a little bit. Of course, they were approaching traffic too. You don't want to risk anything. And I think there's a move being done behind. Oh, Pablo Lopez tried to go for what we have to remember is the class lead amongst the Pro Sim drivers. And Alex Johnson right with him as well. We now have the top 3 Sim drivers all together on track. A word for Belinsky. He's rejoined in 11th. Is unfortunate, to be honest. The performance really deserved more from this race. Just unlucky. The car just got away from him. You know, these things happen. But, you know, I'm sure he'll be back at the next race night. But can't take my eyes off this 3-car battle for the Pro Sim lead, Andy. It's fantastic.
Yes, and unlike in the previous race when it was 3 teammates locking out the podium places in the Pro Sim category, this time 3 different drivers from 3 different teams. So no team orders here, no team tactics. It is every man for themselves. Dan Blake then in second place, having led the race outright for the first, 16.5 minutes, is now trying to at least salvage a class victory, which I think he'd still be very happy with, but he's got the very rapid Pablo Lopez right behind him as they come down across the start-finish line onto what should be the final lap of the race. We're on board with Lopez then in the Team Ford Zilla car in 3rd position, looking to try and claim the class victory here out of Hollywood through the Craner curves. Dan Blake just has to defend for 1 more lap. That makes it sound a lot easier than it actually is, but he hasn't really put a foot wrong all race, in fairness. Dan Blake, can he survive for 1 more lap? Well, Lopez has a run. He's gone to the outside line into McLean's. He tries to send it on the wide line, and he's done it. Beautiful move from Pablo Lopez. Second place now belongs to him, the class lead in the Pro Sim category. And Dan Blake, well, a little unfortunate, really, not to finish any better than 3rd overall. He'll still be pleased with that, but it's a case of what could have been for him. Luke Browning, though, is going to come away from Donington Park with the maximum points haul. He's still undefeated in qualifying sessions, and he takes a double race victory tonight. And this one, he really had to work for. Luke Browning wins round number 2 of the championship. Pablo Lopez is second and wins the Pro Sim class, with Dan Blake an astonishing 3rd. Alex Johnson with a fighting 4th place finish from Fred Lubin in 5th position. And Leon Penn, Alex Palau 7th. It looks like Alex Palau is going to finish. That's a pretty solid job. Quietly sort of flew under the radar then and makes his way into the top 10 ahead of Jaco van der Plat, Kevin Zemstra and Matthew Crisp, with Roman Belinsky just outside the points at the end of a dramatic race for him. But Luke Browning celebrates with the Victory Donuts down at Redgate Corner, and this is a celebration that he thoroughly deserves, because that was a masterclass performance, wasn't it? I mean, it's always a perilous thing, isn't it, Damien, to start at the back of a 28-car competitive grid. The slightest bit of contact in these cars can ruin your race. He avoided that. He fought his way through quickly, but cleverly as well, and managed to take the victory. I'm starting to run out of good things to say about Luke Browning. He is in exemplary form once again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you have to say that the reverse grids last year were Luke's Achilles heel slightly in the iRacing trophy. That's not to say that he wasn't good at working his way through them, but generally that's where the bad luck hit him. And ultimately, I think that slightly deprived him of a chance to really get the title. So good to see that he's clearly cracked the code for the reverse grids this time around. As you say, a mammoth drive through the field. And I think if Luke's mentality is in any way similar to last year, it's very much bank the points in race 1, salvage what you can from race 2, and if that's a Luke Browning salvage operation, then yeah, if I were the others, I'd be a little bit worried. But I have to say there are some real drivers, Belinsky, Askey. They need notable mentions tonight. The luck hasn't gone their way. They've absolutely acquitted themselves well. What a way to announce yourself for the start of the iRacing trophy. And as you're just seeing on your screen now, a couple of replays, some brilliant moves by Browning. I have to say, I do feel for Dan Blake. Held that right until the final lap. Really unlucky, but a great drive from him as well.
Yeah, this was an incredible battle, wasn't it, really? They caught Blake, and it instantly became clear that Browning and Belinsky really wanted to win the class, and that maybe was their priority. As soon as Belinsky was out of the equation, Browning was able to set off after Dan Blake. It's almost like he thought, right, that's the class win in the bag. Now let's see what we can do about the overall race victory. But until that point, he wasn't willing to take a huge risk and instead wanted to make sure that he kept Belinsky behind him. And that is exactly what he was able to do. Well, a fantastic race. We'll hear from our top 3 drivers momentarily. In fact, I think one of them has made their way up towards us. I'm not surprised that he's eager to have a chat with us. I can see Dan Blake is waiting to pop in, the 3rd placed finisher in the end, 2nd place within the Pro Sim class. But we'll run through the results first, actually, which confirmed that it was Luke Browning with the race victory. Pablo Lopez 2nd from Dan Blake in 3rd, then Alex Johnson and Fred Lubin. Leon Penn, Alex Palau, Jakob von Platt, Kevin Zemstra and Matthew Chrisbrand out the top 10. Belinsky really unlucky there, doubly unlucky that he just misses out on a point by only 3 seconds. Belinsky 11th place overall. Kayaski is 12th. Georgi Dimitrov is in 13th. Roldan Rodriguez 14th from Thomas Pintos. Joel Evans, Callum Brandt and Joseph Loke in 18th place. And outside the top 18, we have in 19th, Marion Kramers. Nicholas Falk was 20th. These are all drivers that were in trouble on the first lap. James Headley was definitely in trouble on the first lap. Reece Saunders too. Ashley Beard, 5 laps down in the end. Julian Moreno, 7 laps down with Nathan Hodgkiss. Matthias Sagazetta, 26th. Silas Craig-Froelich in 27th. Mackenzie Cresswell didn't really get to see the best of the JHR development driver in that one. But that was a difficult second race for him. Hopefully he'll be able to deliver on his pace next time out. Right then, the race winner, I believe, is here to have a chat with us, Damien. We've chatted with him a few times, haven't we, on the top step of the podium. It's another race win for our championship leader, Luke Browning.
Yeah, hi, Luke. It's Damien up in the commentary box. Another race win for you, but that one was a little bit busier than the first, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that was chaotic. I just I got a good start and then literally waited. I didn't overtake anyone, to be fair, I overtook a few people, but I mean it just all sort of happened in front of me and I just picked the best line for me, and then it all just sort of worked out when I was coming through. So yeah, I mean interesting race. I'm sure that'll be one for the highlight reel.
What a battle with Roman Belinsky as well. Just a few thoughts on him. You had an absolutely titanic scrap between the two of you, lap after lap. Really unfortunate moment. He just lost it a few laps from the end. But did that give you then the clean space you needed to be able to catch and pass Dan?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I needed. If Rome was still there, we would have been battling for P2, because I think whoever finished more ahead in that race. Well, no, to be fair, it would have been fine if we were battling for second. But if we managed to overtake Dan, and then it would have been whoever comes out leading would have won that, or we would have come out even if he'd have won that. So I thought, I'd like to come out leading the championship. So if I finish ahead of him, then I secure that. So that was sort of my mindset behind it. If I can just finish ahead of him, it doesn't matter if I let Dan go ahead for P1. I was happy defending for P2. But that initial gap that he had, I think Dan had like maybe a 6-second gap or something. He did really well to build that up, and then I thought, let's try and catch him. And then, sort of in the intermediate laps, me me and Roman were deciding who was going to go and catch him, and eventually I let Roman go through. We caught him up, and then it was the Titanic battle, like you said, from then on.
Yeah, we were theorising up in the commentary box whether you guys were just trying to help each other catch him up, or when you were going to make the moves. A brilliant battle, but also a brilliant start to the iRacing Trophy for you. 2 races, 2 wins. Where do you go from here?
Next stop, wherever that is. I need to look at the calendar. Snetterton. Yeah, that'd be good. Pole there last season, so hopefully we'll get pole again and do the same thing.
Yeah, we mentioned that on air earlier. You're making a bit of a habit of taking pole in the iRacing Trophy. Just what is it that means you... We were saying in practice, the times were so close, it came to qualifying, you just managed to find a couple more tenths. Is it that you're keeping something in reserve, or is there a big eureka moment? What's the secret?
No, so when in the practice we can go for longer stints, and usually the car's much quicker at the end. But I've just been really keeping my stints short and doing race runs and quali runs. So usually the times that you see in practice is what I do in quali. So that's probably where that comes from.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Luke, for taking some time to talk to us, and we'll see you at the next one. Well done.
Yep. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Well, Luke Browning then, once again a race victor, but that was definitely a race that he will remember fondly, I'm sure. What a dramatic charge it was. Now, second place in that one, in the end, was Pablo Lopez. And he is also here, I believe, to have a chat with us. Second place, and of course, the victory in the Pro Sim class. Pablo joins us now. Pablo, a fantastic race there. Second place overall. You won the class, and you gained 21 positions over the course of the race. That must have been pretty exciting.
Indeed, it was. In the final lap, I didn't expect to get the second position, but finally I couldn't put the outside there and get the second behind Luke, which was amazingly fast today, as always.
Yeah, he's hard to beat, isn't he? Is Luke Browning? But I think you've done pretty well on your debut in the Formula 4 iRacing Trophy. 5th place in race 1 behind your teammates. But in this one, you didn't have to worry so much about team tactics, did you? Because Alex and Julian, they were a bit further back. So did you feel you were kind of flying the flag for the team in that one?
Yeah, totally. In the first one, I didn't want to just mess with our teammates. Even we got a 3 wide, and I back off from that, just to not lose any time with the guys in front. But then in the second race, they had problems, and I was following Luke and getting positions and getting it safe, and had some pretty nice battles with Kevin and also Alex. So it was nice. And Dan also.
Sorry, go on.
And Dan also, I said.
Yes, yeah, Dan. Again, a hard driver to pass is Dan, so you did well to get past him there at the end. Now, I haven't worked out the points just yet, but I think you're going to be doing pretty well in the points after the results tonight. What's your target from this? Are you kind of focusing on the Pro Sim class, or do you think you've got a chance of beating Luke to the overall championship?
I don't really know. I hope to get at least a good battle with Luke and get him a little bit of pressure, because he's fast. But I think we can make it a little bit difficult for him.
We're looking forward to seeing that, because Luke, we could do with some competition up there for Luke, but you did really well in that one. Congratulations on the podium, and hopefully we'll talk to you again in the near future.
Thank you for having us. It's a pleasure. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Pablo. And Pablo Lopez then with a solid night, as I said, 5th in race 1, 2nd in race 2. But this is a conversation I'll be completely honest, I didn't think I'd be having tonight. But Dan Blake, massive congratulations, mate. That was an absolutely stellar performance. It so easily could have been the race win, but I reckon you're quite happy with that result in the end.
Hello, Andy. I didn't think we'd have this conversation either. I'm actually quite in awe, to be honest. It's just, I wasn't expecting it. I had a bit of luck, though. I nearly threw it all away. I went wide, come out the final chicane, nearly hit I was millimetres away from the barrier. But after that, just got my head back down again and just kept on doing what I had to do. I knew Luke and Raymond were coming and they were fighting as well. But it's the first time I've really been in that sort of position before in such a prestigious championship. I'd like to thank British F4 for the invitation as well. And it's just been a fantastic night. The first race didn't go to plan. I got involved in an incident at the old hairpin, and just kept on going, plugging away, and it got myself into that position I had in the second race. And from then on, I just tried to do the best I could to get a result, and I'm absolutely ecstatic with a podium.
Yeah, I mean, that was a fantastic result. Second place in the Pro Sim class as well, of course. Was there a moment in that race where you kind of looked in your mirrors and thought, hang on a minute, they're not actually getting any closer to me. In fact, I'm pulling away. This could be on.
I never truly thought it was on. I looked in the mirror and I thought, oh, but obviously I know how fast Luke is. He's the F4 champion in real life. He was very close to winning the championship in this last season in the ice series as well. You've also people like Pablo, and they're names I would never expect to be up near the front with. It's just amazing to be able to race with them. And towards the end, I probably could have thought a bit more of Pablo, but I thought I don't want to risk anything. A podium is, for me, in this series, is just absolutely fantastic. I was happy to take that.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you in the championship and to see you on the podium as well, Dan. Massive congratulations and best of luck for Snetterton next week.
Thank you very much. I never thought I could say, but an F4 podium. But well, thank you very much, Andy and Graham. Thank you for the broadcast.
No, thank you. Dan Blake then on the podium in the second race of the night. Fantastic effort from him and the Year One Racing team. Now, hopefully, I think there might be a chance to have a word with a couple more drivers here, Damien, because there were a few stories that you picked up on there. Drivers that maybe weren't right at the front of the field by the end, but that certainly caught your attention.
Well, I think actually we're going to talk to a driver who very much was at the front, but for an unfortunate moment at the end. Roman Belinsky back in the commentary box with us. Roman, what happened from your perspective? Really unlucky. You're having such a great battle with Luke, really putting on a great show, and it just seemed to get away from you at the end there. Roman, I think if you can hear us, I think your mic might be on mute. Okay.
No sign of Roman. That's a shame, Damien. It would have been nice to hear from him and get his thoughts on what happened there at the end of the race. But never mind. We'll try and get him back if we can. I think though that might possibly be all we have time for, actually. So I'm sure we'll chat to Roman Belinsky next week. He'll be back around for the second race night of the season, rounds 3 and 4 of the championship, which will take place, as Damien alluded to earlier on, at the Snetterton 300 circuit. That's on the 1st of February. On the 8th of February, the week after that, we're at the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. And on the 15th of February, it will be the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit, which will host the championship decider once again. We're going to try this again very quickly with Roman Belinsky. I think I can see that he's unmuted his microphone. So, Damien, we'll have one more go, shall we, having a chat with Roman?
Yep, take two. Roman, welcome back to the commentary box. A really good race right up at the front, and it just managed to get away from you at the end there. Can you just talk us through what happened from your side?
Yeah, I mean, had a really good start. Got second in, I think, halfway through the race, and me and Luke were battling really hard. Just went into turn 8 and lost it. Went down in extra gear and just spun up the rear. And that was basically it, really. I mean, couldn't save it from there.
But despite that, and I know it's frustrating, there's a lot of positives to take from this week for you. You really did give Luke Browning one of the standout drivers from the iRacing Trophy last year. You gave him a real run for his money. Looked like you were going to beat him in that second race. Fantastic defending, fantastic overtaking. You must be really pleased, and it must give you some positives to take to Snetterton next week.
Yeah, for sure. I think it was, I guess in the whole thing, there's positives to take out, and I guess how Luke, we all know, is really good on the sim, so to be close to him is, I guess, a big positive, and hopefully Snet will be better.
Brilliant. Well, best of luck for next week. Thanks for all the entertainment tonight. And Roman Belinsky will make his way out of the commentary box, and I'm sure the preparations will start for next week's racing as well. Andy, what a start to the year! What a night!
Wasn't bad, was it? I quite enjoyed that. Can we do it again next week?
I'll go on then. I think so, but only because we've already signed up for the broadcasting.
Yeah, I'm sure I don't have to twist your arm quite that much, Damien. I mean, I've thoroughly enjoyed tonight. The racing really has been absolutely brilliant. And yes, Luke Browning won both of the races, but he didn't have it all his own way. Even in that first race, he was under pressure in the early stages. So I think we are in for an intriguing next 6 races in the championship. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. I hope you've enjoyed the racing, and hopefully you'll be able to come back next Monday evening. Same time, same place, but at the Snetterton 300 circuit for rounds 3 and 4 of the championship, where we'll see if Luke Browning can continue his dominant form, or if one of the many, many drivers who are hot on his heels tonight are able to seize the top step of the podium away from him. My thanks to Damien Meaden for joining me on commentary, Graham Sessford for handling the production side of the broadcast tonight. We will be back next week, and hopefully you will be too, for rounds 3 and 4 of the British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy.